Welcome to the Nightly Rant. I'm Mike.
And I'm Toria.
This is the show where we talk about the awful things that have happened in our day, the awesome things that have happened in our day,
and all the things in between.
Thanks for listening, and we truly hope you enjoy. I hate when we start this late.
I hate when you get home this late.
I know this practice schedule is painful.
Kind of obscene and unnecessary.
Yeah, I think starting a practice at 7 o'clock at night and ending it at 9 o'clock at night when it's a school night the next day is asking a little bit much.
4 days a week.
Yeah, it's asking a little bit much. And it's interesting because you don't see too many parents there.
I like 6:15 practices the best.
Yeah.
Because it's a reasonable time.
You don't see too many parents there right now, though.
I bet.
It's weird.
Late. Why would they want to stay?
It's just weird. Like, no one's there. I think it also has to do with the drama that's been going on, so there's that.
Probably. Nobody wants to be any part of it.
Right, they don't want to be involved. But, speaking of drama, people, so, you know, that we talked yesterday about the homeless being moved out, right?
Yes.
St. Orange County Register posts their article about it. And of course, there's the one guy who thinks they should all rot in hell and they shouldn't get any help from anybody.
Of course.
And blah, 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 blah. And thinks he knows everything about everybody, but can't do anything but insult people. That's his method of getting his point across. His very
first message, like, you said that he was off his rocker about calling them all drug addicts. And I know that's not exactly what you said, but it was the gist of what you said. Don't know what you're talking about. And then his very next message was him calling you a moron and a Philistine.
Yeah.
Like, what? He went from, like, 0 to crazy real quick.
And that's what people do when they don't have an answer.
Well, and then every message after that, there was an insult. Every single message after that, he was insulting you.
Yep. Or trying to.
Yep. Well, he was hurling them, whether or not they...
Well, that's the funny part is, it's like, who cares? You're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. Then the person that comes out of the woodwork and talks about my county-paid vehicle and my county-paid expense account. You know, those things that I don't have.
It'd be nice to have, I'm sure.
People are insane.
But...
And, you know, let's make assumptions about other people that we don't know.
Let's be real. That person has no idea who their county representative is.
No, they don't.
0.
They don't.
Because if they knew...
I don't think they even know that there is such a thing.
Because if they knew, they would have already known you weren't on the board of supervisors.
Correct.
Like, come on, bros. But... when we heard about the entire riverbed thing going down,
we knew that people were going to make those comments.
We knew, exactly. We knew that there would be at least one. And I'm actually surprised and kind of alarmed that it's been as small of a scale as it is.
Very quiet, yeah.
It seems to me that people are just happy something's being done and they're keeping their mouth shut.
But you know, you make a good point about that, not knowing who your representative is. That's kind of the sad aspect of the whole situation is it's revealing just how much people lack knowledge. Like, this guy tried to make this argument about that Anaheim gets majority of its water from purification plant that takes the water out of the Santa Ana River. And he proved in air quotes his case by posting a 6-year-old document from the city of Anaheim.
But the Santa Ana River isn't actually a river, is it? Isn't it just a drainage canal?
And exactly. And most cities in California, they get their water from an outsourced area.
Doesn't California get a lot of water from, like, elsewhere in the country and
Colorado
other
River.
countries?
Colorado River. It's where the majority of our water comes from. And he doesn't realize that that's changed as the drought's gotten worse. It's gotten more and more cities are doing that. So instead of using groundwater and purifying it like a lot of cities were doing, and then supplementing the water from elsewhere, now they're getting the water from elsewhere and they're supplementing it with the groundwater. And he's like, can you believe, like they posted that, you know, however many tons of human waste were removed from there. And I'm shocked. Why are you shocked? Where did you think they were going to the bathroom? Did you really think they walked down the street and took a dump over at the bus station? Is that where you thought they went?
I don't think the bus station would have allowed it.
Like, how stupid are you? Where do you think they're taking a dump?
Right.
They're taking a freaking dump right there where they're living. They dig a goddamn hole and squat down in there and poo. Of course they do.
My mom.
But that's because the county is too stupid to give bathroom facilities.
My mom said the pictures we took were the saddest thing she's ever seen. And she was most affected by the little graveyard one.
Yeah, oh, me too.
Yeah. So.
Me too. And it was very sad.
And I think from seeing other people's comments that it was like memorial to people who had passed away down there. Not necessarily people buried, but memorial to them.
But like, okay. That's the part that's really, I don't know. It's disheartening that people in society are so heartless that they don't, you know, oh, well, they're not helping themselves, so they should just be out of here. You know, and that's the thing. You know what? Just because they're not supposedly doing everything that they can do to get up off onto their feet again doesn't mean that they should be treated like dirt.
Well, I want to know how these people came to the conclusion that they're not doing everything they can do. They're not doing everything that you could do. But how do you know they're not doing everything that they could do?
Well, that's exactly it. And the thing is, then you got people who are generalizing, and they're believing the stories that they hear on the news. Now, come on. We were there. We heard the homeless people say that finally they came here and brought some services for us. Finally. This is the first time they've actually done it. We heard them say that. And it wasn't one or two. It was everybody.
Many.
And some of those people lived there for 3 and 4 years.
The only person that I heard say, they bring us services all the time. Have you ever lived in the riverbed? Do you know
Is the lady that was paid by Todd Spitzer to be there.
Right. Right. And you know what? She did everything she could do to get out of the riverbed. She really did. She's probably the luckiest one to get out of there.
But why is everybody so willing to just believe that shit?
Let's be real. These are the people, the same people that you were talking to during the presidential election. They read something in the news and they believe it. They read something on their crazy Republican friend's wall. They believe it. They read something on their crazy Democrat friend's wall. They believe it. Like, it shouldn't be any surprise that people are misinformed because they just believe whatever they read once and never do any kind of research and never try to find out what's going on for themselves.
Yeah, I really don't disagree with you. I really don't. I think that's the problem, is that people don't go to find out for themselves what's going on. They just trust what they hear. And see, here's the other thing. You hear one homeless advocate talking to another homeless advocate complaining about the fact that the county keeps telling them they're going to do this, that, or the other thing, and that they should go tell the homeless people this. And they go tell the homeless people, then it doesn't happen, and they're complaining that now the homeless people don't trust them.
Right.
So not only is the county not doing anything to fix the problem, their inaction is making other people's job harder.
Exactly.
And why would that guy be complaining about that if they actually followed through and brought the services to the riverbed?
Exactly.
And then the same bozo with the water thing and all of his insults. Then he wants to say that, nobody I said, so much for the government looking out for your well-being. Nobody's supposed to look out for your well-being but yourself. Well, see, that's the thing. Government is there to make sure your rights are not infringed upon.
Yep.
So why did they let... My whole point is this, okay? People want to say it's not the government's fault. All right. What have they done to secure affordable housing in this county? What have they done?
Nothing.
Exactly. What have they done? What did they do early on to stop people from camping in a place that clearly had hours posted saying it closes at 6 o'clock at night?
I'm going to go with nothing.
They looked the other way. So, okay, shocker of shockers. It starts out with 10 tents. And they're shocked that there's 1,000 of them now. Why wouldn't there be 1,000 of them? You got all these cities passing no camping ordinances, which, by the way, are all going to get stricken down at some point. And where do you think they're going to go? They're going to go somewhere where no one's going to bother them. And that's exactly the point. Why doesn't the sheriff sweep through there a couple times a night and chase people out?
They see that their friend has somewhere comfortable to sleep without being bothered by any sort of law enforcement. Why wouldn't they all flock there? You're exactly right. And it was fenced off. There weren't people harassing them. Nobody cared if they were there. No. Why wouldn't they all congregate there? And then all of a sudden, when they all arrived, is when people started to care.
Well, yeah. And then, people got tired of seeing them be there all the time.
Yeah. But I have to agree. With that person that we talked to that said they are putting the rights of bicyclists who are there for recreation over the rights of these people.
I don't see how you could interpret it any other way. I mean, how could you interpret it any other way? The big outcry, and and I get it. The big outcry is, that's our park. We want to use our park. We want to be able to ride our bikes through there and not be afraid for our lives and blah, 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 blah. Okay. I hear you. I do. I totally hear you. But why on God's green earth do they put the bicyclists and the people walking through there above everybody else? Those people get to go home to a warm house tonight, but those other people are out there sleeping in the cold.
There are 70,000 other parks in Orange County that you could ride your bike through. Sorry, but there are.
It just doesn't make any sense. And I understand that that's our viewpoint and it's not everybody's viewpoint.
Well,
but
the good thing about this podcast is it's
our podcast. So we get to say what we want.
Precisely.
It's just irritating as hell because I can understand saying, they shouldn't be out there. And they're right. They shouldn't be because there's signs that say it closes at 6 o'clock.
Exactly.
But yet, they allowed them to be there. So it's okay, I can remember something very simple. It sticks with me because it's one of the first times I had this kind of training, When I was a retail manager, they taught us that you have to document behavior that you don't tolerate. Uh-huh. And if you don't document it, then it becomes the same thing in the eyes of the law as accepting that behavior. What? So if someone's late all the time and you don't write them up, and then one day you decide you've had enough and you start writing them up and you fire them because of it, they can go to court for wrongful termination and they can say, well, I was late 74,000 other times. Quite literally, I have all the dates right here. And yeah, sometimes I had 10 shifts in a day. I understand. 74,000 times I was late. And they never once wrote me up. So I thought it was okay to be 10 minutes late every day.
Well, I feel like the most relevant situation you could go with is when somebody takes up residence in an abandoned house. and they get squatters' rights after a while. Wouldn't the same thing apply to the people in the riverbed?
Well, there's people who argue with you about that whole squatters' rights thing, because you're right. It does apply to them. Because I know that we were just out in Norco for the weekend.
Yes.
And out there was a major foreclosure problem. And houses were vacant for a year.
Okay.
And what people were doing was they were going on Craigslist, creating a fake Gmail account, going on Craigslist, posting an advertisement from that fake Gmail account for that house for rent. Then they were creating a lease agreement. They would email back and forth. And then they create a lease agreement from some fictitious person. And they would sign the lease agreement. And in the lease agreement, it would say that they gave a deposit of this much money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then they'd move in and they'd start having their mail sent there. And because there were so many foreclosures, the banks didn't have inspectors available who were supposed to go out once a quarter. So they'd go out about once a year. So by the time they'd show up out there, they'd be like, hey, you got to get out of here. You're not supposed to be here. And they say, I have a lease agreement. It's right here.
I get all my mail here.
And guess what happens? The bank pays them, offers them, I'll pay you $10,000 and give you 30 days to move out. Because that's not that's not a legal lease. Because the only way to get them out, eviction, costs lots of money.
Yep.
So they figure the $10,000 in the 30 days is fair and it's equitable. So what do these people do? They get free rent for all that time.
And then they get money.
And then they get money and move on to the next place and do it all over again. So yeah, you're right. Once the county looked the other way for a long enough period of time, those people, that was their property at that point.
And my bet is that is where Mr. Federal Judge Man is getting a little bit of his inspiration from.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because he's been on record last year saying he can't stop the county from kicking them out of there, but he sure can make sure that they do it in a humane fashion.
So they'd get, well, just like the squatters, though. They get kicked out eventually, but there's a process you have to take.
Well, yeah, and
So?
And why shouldn't it be humane? And all these people, they're just going to end up back out in the street again. It's possible that they will. It is. It's possible that they will. But there's also like the story, it was really kind of touching in the OC Register, what they did. I loved their angle on this.
They do a good job.
They went out there and they took photos of individuals. And then they published their name and a little bit about their story, about what happened, how long they've been down there, etc. One guy says that about a month ago he got a job. And he's hoping that the combination of the motel voucher and the food voucher for 30 days will get him to save enough money that he can get into an apartment and finally get off of his.
Because he could probably afford an apartment, but not a down payment.
Right.
Kind of
and
thing.
By having to pay for his own food all the time, he's not able to build up the money and dig himself out. Now, what I think is funny is then you hear the people, I would work 3 jobs and I would do this and I would do that.
First, find those
all
jobs.
These people who've never been in that position before. I mean, if you've never been in that position before, how can you say what you would or would not do?
Well, and how do you know how difficult it is to find a job when you smell and look like you live in a tent in a riverbed?
Exactly.
Not that all of those people look dirty or anything.
Well, and look at how many of them don't have. There's so many of them that don't have identification that they had to set up temporary IDs for these people. I mean, how are they supposed to get a job if they don't have identification? I mean, one of the first requirements when you get hired is you got to show your driver's license and social security card.
I'm sure they could find like one-off work, like little odd jobs for people, but that's pretty much it.
Well, yeah, and those jobs generally don't pay that much money because they're cash under the table. So I don't get it. I don't get it at all. I don't see how people can't see. I get that there's people on all different sides of this issue, okay? And everybody, like the person was saying to me when we were down there, everybody has their own idea of what works the best. And that's their opinion, and that's like their pet process that they like. Some people believe in changing the laws. Other people believe in housing them. And then there's all the people in between. And that doesn't make anybody right or anybody wrong. Those are just ideas that people have. It's just like Nancy's idea for alfresco gardens. It's not a bad short-term solution.
No.
And had there been one,
that's where all these people would be going.
that's where they could be going. And they could have swept them all in there all at once.
Uh-huh.
Because there's enough space. They wouldn't need to be dealing with
and they could have paid
motels.
$150 each for 1 month of them to stay there.
Yeah.
They probably could have spent for an entire year for them to stay there.
What they're spending in 30
for
days.
A month. Yes.
That's why, I'm going to send an email to Judge Carter's bailiff. I found the...
Good.
And I'm going to send an email and be like, yo, I was trying to reach the judge, and the person who was supposed to set up the meeting didn't set up the meeting, and then they said the judge never came, but he was there. I need to get some information to him. What's the best way? And explain in brief what I want to get to him and see what happens. Because I believe that to be a decent short-term plan, even a medium-term plan.
It is a very good anti-sleeping in the riverbed solution.
It's also a very good anti-sleeping on the streets solution.
Yes.
I mean, it's funny, but you talk to people, and it's a lot like the gun control debate. People get so emotional about it that they're not logical about it. And yeah, okay, I understand. You don't want people sleeping on the streets, and there's crime because they don't have money, and so they steal, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But why is it that those same people, if I said, hey, there's a lady that lives across the hall from us, and her child support is just enough to pay the rent, but she doesn't have a job, and she hasn't had a job for like 6 weeks. She's out of money, so she went down to Albertsons and she stole some deli meat. And they'd be like, oh, well, she shouldn't go to jail for that. She's trying to provide for her family. So when the homeless guy steals a bicycle so he can sell it to make money so he can feed himself and his wife and maybe his children, why doesn't he get the same empathy? And by the way, people, I'm not saying whether I think that the woman who steals to feed her children is right. I'm not saying it. I'm not saying she's wrong. I'm not giving my opinion on that, and I won't give my opinion on that.
You're just saying it's the exact same
I'm just
situation.
saying it's the same situation, and if people are inclined to give the woman a free ride, they got to be inclined to give the homeless person a free ride for the very same reason. Right. What else? I mean...
I have to say, though, the person you were speaking to on the Orange County Register page should send us an email with their address, because I'd like to challenge them to the Tide Pod Challenge.
Yeah. Well, he might be dumb enough to actually do it.
Well, that's the entire reason that we're not going to send anybody actual Tide Pods, because, some of the people we'd like to challenge are indeed stupid enough to do it.
It is. It's true. I can't believe how hungry people can get when they see the Tide Pod. They just want to chow down on that disgusting looking character. I think that Tide...
Mitchell's giving them a round of face palms.
I think Tide should put a label on the Tide Pods that says, warning, eating this is proof of natural selection.
I should email the info@tide.com.
The Tide people should have cavemen as their spokespeople to make it all about natural selection and evolution.
Yeah, you eat a Tide Pod and a giant Tyrannosaurus Rex steps on your head. That's all.
Exactly. Or one of those pterodactyls comes from above, and picks you up and eats you.
Wow, we have sound effects tonight.
Yeah.
This kid at my school says they taste good.
What tastes good? Tide Pods? Well, if he's eaten one, he'd be dead, so we know he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
He's just an idiot. That's the problem. There's
Just
a lot
an
of
idiot
those.
trying to promote other idiots.
There's a lot of those out there, you know?
There really are.
I just think it's funny that people, I don't know.
But that guy, he's the newest
Double
candidate.
standards.
I would like to challenge him to the Tide Pod Challenge.
Would you know?
Yes. So he should send us his address. And anybody who agrees with him should also send us their address, because I like to challenge them as well.
You know my address already.
Shut up, Mitchell.
Do we know your address, Mitchell? I don't know.
You're the worst.
I think it's funny, though. It's just like they can see everything else about a situation, but they can't see the actual truth. And that's the part I don't get.
Yeah, well, nobody ever said that they were intelligent.
It's just, I don't know. Maybe this is what they need at their house.
Oh.
You know? Maybe then they'll understand how awful it is to be in the situation that these people are in.
Yeah.
See, I look at it this way: these people are in a bad way, and yes, society does not want them there, and they do present a public health risk. I mean, come on, look what happened in San Diego with the hepatitis outbreak.
Yes.
They do present a health risk, and they can spread that all over the place. And so I understand this, but being homeless isn't illegal, first of all. So now what? Somebody has to help.
Yep. If you don't want them there, and you don't want them sleeping on the street corner, because what they're doing isn't illegal, you should find somewhere else for them to go.
It's mind-boggling, because do these people not think through what they say?
They don't.
Because it sure seems like they don't think through what they say. Because if they were thinking through what they say, they probably wouldn't say half the stuff that they say. And I'm not trying to be confusing and weird.
I still don't think they would not say it, because I don't think they're capable of thinking all the way through an intelligent thought.
I agree with you. I agree with you. So do the people.
Do you want to know what else I think we agree on?
What?
The fact that it's bedtime.
Pretty much. But you know what they say, right?
What?
One, it walks like a duck, and it talks like a duck. It's a duck, right? Well, here's how ducks talk. Sounded more like a goose, but hey.
You like those sound effects
okay.
way too much.
That was that woman kissing Todd Switzer's butt.
Gross.
And then, here's for all the human waste that was done. That's funny.
You say so.
I like that. The toilet sound effects always make me laugh, though. They're so easy to replicate.
You're basically a 12-year-old boy.
Swoosh. Swoosh. It's crazy. But this isn't going to get resolved anytime soon. And then you got the people on Nextdoor saying that they're all going to come to Stanton and Buena Park, when the reality is they got sent to like Laguna Niguel and Mission Viejo because that was the only place where there were motel rooms open.
I'm sure that Mission Viejo doesn't approve.
I don't think any of them approve, to tell you the truth. But anyway, I think you're right. I think it's bedtime. Bedtime for Bonzo. Yogi's dead on the couch.
He is.
Yogi is dead.
He had a
on
good
the
howl
couch.
session earlier. Now he's
He
tired.
did not howl. Yogi, did you howl? No, he didn't howl. He promises me.
Calling me a liar?
No, I'm telling you he says he didn't howl.
You're calling me a liar.
Nope, I'm telling you he says he didn't howl.
Okay then.
There's a difference.
Not really, but alright.
There is. Well, are we done? Are you having more to say? You got
I
nothing
don't have more to say. I was done like 5 minutes ago. Then
I think you were
decided
done
you
before we
liked sound
started.
effects. Good night, everyone.
Hasta la bye-bye. Hey, this is Mike, and I just wanted to tell you that if you enjoyed the show, and I truly hope you did, you can subscribe on iTunes or Google Play and not miss a single episode. But if you happened to miss an episode and you didn't find it on Google Play or iTunes for some reason, you could go to our website, which is thenightly.rant.wordpress.com.